Today we're going to learn the restrained recall, or what I like to call the party recall. So before we get started, you should make sure that you've already worked on your hand target, your collar grab, and the name game. Teaching my dog the recall, or the come, is considered one of my foundation behaviors that every dog should know.
Whip, come. Good girl. You're a good girl.
You can use your come when your dog is off leash or even on a leash and something is distracting it. You want a dog who's really excited to come to you no matter what else is happening. It's really a safety issue that you can address when your puppy's really young, or you can start right away with a new dog that you've just gotten, even if they're an adult. Training the restrained recall or the party recall is all about creating a conditioned emotional response in your dog's brain so that when they hear that recall word, they want to get to you as quickly as possible. And that's what we're looking for. A dog that hears their recall word, their word, whether it be come or here or now or whatever it is, and bolts at you because they know that awesome things happen when they come to you. Dogs are typically intrinsically motivated to chase you, so you need to be really fun when you're playing this game with your dog. You want your dog to associate fun and exciting things with you and coming to you. If you do not put effort into making yourself fun now, your dog will not perform when the recall is more difficult, say off of a squirrel or off of a deer in the woods or off of another dog. Receiving the food or the toy reward at the end of this recall should just be a bonus. The real fun is getting to play with you. When playing this game, you have two options. You can either pick a brand new word to start this game with, such as now or charge, maybe a word that you've never used with your dog to associate any type of coming to you, or you can use it to strengthen the word that you're using right now, such as come. One word of caution is that if you've been using come and your dog has been ignoring it, it's time to pick a new word. I like to use charge, but you can pick whatever makes sense for you and that you'll remember in an emergency. So let's go over the steps for training the restrained recall or the party recall. First, you're going to cut up 20 pieces of food that your dog doesn't typically get. Some good examples are steak, liverwurst, microwave frozen meatballs, cheese, or a spoonful of mashed potatoes or raw meat. A very valuable tug can also be used. This toy must make your dog incredibly excited, and you must have already built value for the toy over time. This is not a toy that you leave around the house. When I first got my puppy Whip, she had a terrible recall. She was fiercely independent and she always loved to wander off. So I used this recall system to create a really strong recall for my dog. I used steak and mashed potatoes because those are the things that she loved, and I practiced these restrained recalls every single day in lots of environments. To start practicing this recall, you're going to have a friend hold your dog for you. You want them to hold your dog around the chest facing you, not by the collar so that they're straining against the collar. You really want to restrain them around the chest. If you don't have a friend to help, put your dog on a long line and wrap that line around a tree or fence post and back to you. Your dog should be in harness on a back clip harness for this game. This way you can hold your dog back with the rope, drop the line as soon as you call the dog, and they should come running. When setting up for this recall, we want to face side on to the dog or perpendicular to them. Facing straight on to your dog can be intimidating for a lot of dogs, but standing with your side to them invites them to come with you. The reward that you cut up before the session should be in your offhand or the hand furthest away from your dog. You don't want your dog to see the reward in your hand. It's a secondary to chasing you. The party starts when your dog starts chasing you and continues when the food reward or the tug comes out. Next, you will call your dog's name and then use your recall word. You need to do this in a really exciting way and before you start running. This is really important for steps down the line when you're no longer going to be running when you call your dog. So I would turn side onto my dog and say, "Jake, now!" and then start running. The person who is holding your dog should wait for you to run a few steps so the dog is trying to get away from them, slightly frustrated, and then they'll release the dog. As soon as your dog is a few steps from you, stop running, get low to the ground, and begin to praise and feed your dog. It is important that you tell your dog they are the best thing in the entire world and make a fuss over them for the full 20 or 30 seconds. You should time it because it's a long time. While you're feeding, grab your dog's collar so they're used to this part of the recall. Do not feed all the pieces of treats at once. You want to feed them one at a time, slowly, while you praise your dog. 10 to 15 pieces of food can easily last 20 seconds if you're making a big deal about it. If you run out of things to say to your dog, start singing happy birthday to them. If you're using a tug instead of food, really get your dog excited. Push on them and make tugging with you the best play they've ever gotten. Once you've run out of cookies or finished your tug game, say all done and disengage from the dog. Once you've spent a couple weeks practicing the restrained recall, you can practice the unrestrained recall. You're going to surprise your dog during the day, call their name, use their recall word, and run away in the house and have a party. You can start practicing the unrestrained recall a couple of times a day once they've already made that connection of that conditioned emotional response to their special recall cue. A couple of reminders. Only practice your restrained recall up to 3 times in a row. As you continue to practice it, your dog will get slower and slower, and that's not the desired result. We want them coming out of the person's hand like a rocket. So up to 3 times is the maximum. I like to practice 3 times a day just for 1 rep when I'm first starting this training so that they understand that the recall could happen at any time. Once your dog is successfully doing a restrained recall in your house, take it outside. Start building from the beginning, almost as if the dog had never learned the skill. Unless a dog has practiced something in 10 locations, they don't know that the behavior is required everywhere. So if you're struggling, make it easier for them so that they can be successful. Your dog does not learn from repeated failure. Now take that out into the real world.
And back up.
As your dog progresses, you will start further away and take less running steps. Then you will only take 1 stutter step. Then you'll face the dog and just call them. Each time you make these slight changes, you'll continue to jackpot with lots of yummy morsels fed slowly over 20 to 30 seconds while you tell your dog he is the most amazing thing in the entire world. As your dog gets better and better at these recalls, you can go to a maintenance level where you're practicing your recall a minimum of 3 times a week. But I would do it in a progression where you're going from 3 times a day to 2 times a day to 1 time a day and then a couple times a week for maintenance. I would continue maintaining this behavior for the rest of your dog's life. It's a really important behavior. Practicing your restrained recall or your party recall is like putting money in the bank for a later date. You're going to withdraw that money when something unexpected happens, like a cat runs across the street, or there's a deer in the yard, or something that you're not anticipating. Then you can break out your recall, call your dog, and your dog will turn around and shoot towards you because they know all the good stuff comes from you. I can't tell you how many clients have thanked me for teaching this type of recall. I had one client whose dog tried to run in the road. They called them. The second that they called them, the dog turned around and came right back to them. So you're really putting money in the piggy bank for later when you're teaching this. So make sure you teach this behavior and maintain it through the lifetime of your dog. Happy training!